number one source. Sports Card Nation. The hobby is the people. Sports Card Nation.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to episode 356 of Sports Card Nation, part 2 of my fun and great conversation with my friend and pal, Dan Tortora. And like you heard last week, if you listened to last week's show, he's one of the big reasons that Sports Card Nation exists. And we might talk a little bit more about it in part 2, but in part 2, we're really going to chop up a little more hobby, get into doing shows and what he does and how he got to the point that he's at in his card journey as well. And if you didn't catch the first part, make sure you do that. If you ever wondered where did Sports Card Nation come from? Why is it here? All the kind of the behind the music, if you will, the backstory. That's all explained in the first episode. And today's guest is a big reason for all of that. So, with that being said, let's get to the conclusion of our interview with Dan Tortora. Here is the conclusion of the interview I did with Dan Tortora, my good friend from Dan Tortora Broadcast Media. So let's talk about enough. Again, we're here. The show. If you would have told me where we'd be now when I first started, I think you're crazy. I'm sure you probably would say that with Dan Tortora Broadcast as well. Like, it's okay to think big, but there's always that doubt in everyone's mind, right? That you play tug of war in your mind. So here we are. But obviously we chopped up some cards talking about them. You had some. Now we're doing shows together. Maybe not right next to each other, but we're setting up at shows. Kind of talk about. You got back into cards in a big way. Yeah. Talk about that evolution as well. You've always collected cards, but now coming back sort of full force, full circle, and then the decision to, hey, I can set up and I don't want to speak for you, but probably like me, right? A lot of times the money you might make at a show or selling the card, you're putting it right back into the hobby and transacting, kind of, ramping up your hobby experience, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, I always collected and I've traded for, pretty much, if I started collecting at like 6 or 7, I started trading at like 8 or 9. So, I've been trading for a long time in this world. Selling was the newest part of it. And I just kind of was like, I'll give it a shot. I'll go out and I'll see. And I never had any like graded cards, and then I got some graded cards because Brendan Murphy, him and I did trade night at GG Cards and Breaks, and he had all these graded cards.
I remember, not to cut you up, Dan, I remember even going on your show for this Friday morning thing, explaining what grading was and what it meant and how it worked and why you should do it or why it's a good thing. And so here we are. Go ahead. I didn't mean to. I wanted just to throw that little.
Yeah, no. I didn't know anything about it. Doing this show, and a bunch of people came up to Brendan, and he had a bunch of higher end stuff, $200 this and $100 that, and $300 whatever. And I just kind of brought out what I had, and I just kind of showed what I had. And doing that, to me, it was just one of those things where I just kind of thought to myself. It was fun. I just kind of took a shot and did the trade night, and I was like, oh, this is cool to see that people care about it and people are in the hobby, and so that was nice to see it. And then I was like, oh, I'll do another one. I like the GG Cards and Breaks guys. I love Josh and Anthony and the team, and so I just kind of started doing it with them, and I thought to myself, I have so many cards, I can part with some of these. They're collecting dust. They're sitting here. If I make money, it's found money. And so I just started doing it. Then I started getting some graded cards. Then I did my first cards that I sent. And I got 9 10s and 3 9s. And I got very spoiled. And I was told by the guys at GG Cards and Breaks that they do not give a 10 from PSA to clear cards. And I had a Trevor Lawrence rookie card that was like his body, and then it was see-through.
Yeah, the probably downwards clearly.
And it was the first card that I had like had in the grading, and it got a 10. And I had a Blake Bortles that Josh thought would get a 10, a draft picks of Blake from UCF that was a refractor, and that got a 10. So like those will always be with me. And yeah, I mean, I started just getting into trade nights, and then Brendan and I did a show out in Philadelphia, and I did really well at the show. And then we came back and at Fishtown card show, and one of the guys was like, dude, he said, I love that you have like a variety and you're always really fair on your prices. And then I kind of went through being around some people that took it way too seriously and they made it not fun. And it kind of made me like, yeah, okay, I don't really want to be like around this and people just critiquing everything that people do and how they do it and what they price and yada, yada, yada. So I took a little break, and then I just kind of casually stayed with the trade nights at GG Cards and Breaks, and I used it to meet people and promote my business and promote my show, and now I've kind of gotten back into the shows and back into just being happy to be there. And you know, I did a show, I did it, the Collector Fest, and I was across from you, and I was there by myself with 2 tables, and I had a record day, and I think it's because I genuinely went there to promote my show, meet people, shake hands, and I was like, hey, if I make any money, it's gravy. And I had like the best day that I've ever had, and I got to do so many cool things and got to see stuff go home to people. And I try to do like little things that I feel like George's did when I was a kid and Twilight. So like one kid came up to me and he said, how much for this and what can I trade you for this? And I looked around and I said, hey, I was like, don't tell anybody, but I don't want anything from you. And I handed it to him, and he's like, really? And I said, yeah. And I'm just hoping that like that's his 9-year-old memory, and that when he's 39 like me right now, that 30 years later he'll go do something for somebody. You know, I like seeing the passion in other people, and then trying to be what George was at George's to me, because I will always remember that he would know exactly what I wanted. He knew my favorite teams. He was good to my mom. He was good to me. And I would take a bag from him, and I know the cards I bought, and I couldn't even wait. And I'd get to the car to look at the cards that I just handed him just because I wanted to see them. And there would be like another 2 or 3 cards in there that he snuck in there that I didn't know about. And, GG Cards and Breaks, I tell Josh all the time, I never thought somebody would make me feel like George did. And Josh and Anthony definitely brought me back home to the hobby. So it's, again, I mean, you gave me credit for your show, and I give it back to you. You talked to me about collecting cards and doing shows, and I would give it to Josh and Anthony.
Yeah, no doubt. You mentioned George, Georgie had back in the day. I'm not sure where he is today, Dan, but he did something that was crazy at the time, and I don't know how well it did. Well, it did in the over. He did a 24-hour card store. I don't know if that's done anymore.
Well, he had a card shop.
Yeah.
So he actually blended sports and entertainment. I do a Wake Up Call and Start Pop and just with Dan. So he was a pioneer way back then to do both. And like one room was cards and one room was comic books. And I think that even he would like say to me, like, I think I'm nuts. But like looking at like in 2025, I wish people did what he did now. Like he did this over 2 decades ago, and I wish people would do it now.
I remember I had my store at the time with my partner Angelo, and I remember when he announced and we knew each other, we were friendly. I would buy stuff for him. I know he bought stuff for me, and I remember when he said that he was going to go and stay open, and that's just a crazy premise. But he thought outside the box. That was what George did, and I'm like, I could never do that. And I don't know to this day if there's one out there, somebody who's listening, if you know of a card store that's open 24 hours a day, let me know, because I like to give credit where credit's due. But it was the only one I've ever heard of then, and since then I've heard of people doing like a live stream or something for 24 hours, but I never heard of a store that operated 24/7 like that. I thought that was pretty zany, but also interesting too, right? To do something that no one else is trying or doing. I don't know you know how many sales you're getting at 3:30 in the morning. Only he would could answer that. But the fact that you could, you know, you can't sleep or you wake up and to use the restroom and you're like, I want to open some cards up, and you can jump in your car or walk down the street, depending on where you reside, and go to a card store at that time of day or night, really, and be able to buy cards. Right? It was just pretty. You couldn't fathom it.
Yeah, I remember he had a picture and he signed it for me, and there's somebody else in there too. I forget who it was, but you know, I mean, George, wherever you are, man, like I will always, always, always have you be part of my story, of my passion and my love. Like I wanted to go to your show every day, and I love how you treated my family, not just me. And like George is like he was just so good to me. And I with people like him, and I there's certain people that just stick out to you, and they always will. And he does for sure. And you know, I love him. Like he just treated me just some kind of way, and I'm just so great. Like I would have done anything to see him succeed. Like I had one of his shirts, polo shirts. I had the autograph thing and all of that. You know, he just you know, he knew customer service. He knew how to treat people. He was just genuine. And you know, wherever you are, George, just know that the little kid in me thanks you, and the way that you treated me is something that I've never forgotten. And it's because of nice people and nice gestures from people like you that I'm reminded that this world is a lot warmer than we thought.
Yeah, well said. All right, going back to your card collecting, right?
Yeah.
You're obviously covering these sports, you're covering these athletes.
Yeah.
And in many cases, you're covering these athletes on both levels, right? There, I say amateur in college with the NIL now. I almost kind of catch myself. But you're covering some of these guys, not only when they're in college, and then as they get drafted to the pros. And then you're seeing them, you get to know them on a personal level, and then you're seeing them on a cardboard and chrome level. How has covering sports and collecting cards, how has the covering sports aspect and getting to know these people on an individual personal level like influenced how you collect cards?
It helps me get an autograph. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Hey. So many times I wanted to have one in my pocket and just go, hey, Trevor, can you sign this jersey? But, yeah, no, man, it's so much fun. You know, it's so cool to, like, I mean, and this was the crazy thing. So I had never gone to an NFL game in my life. And the first time I went to an NFL game was 2010. And I was covering the game. So my first experience of going to an NFL game was me getting to cover the Jaguars, my favorite team, going for free, getting a parking pass because I'm in the press box, and then I get to go in the locker room and interview the people whose cards I collect. It was right after my favorite Jaguar of all time left, Fred Taylor, which was like really sad. But it was so wild to me, and it didn't really hit me until it hit me that I'm standing and like I didn't even think about it. But after the game, I was like, holy crap, I get to go in the locker room. And then I'm standing in the locker room and I'm like, I get to talk to these people who I collect. And, you know, that was just so wild that my first NFL experience was as a professional, working for my own show, which was the Dan Tortora show on ESPN, 1080 The Team in Orlando at the time. And, yeah, so, I mean, it was just wild. But, I love it. Like, it's so much fun to do it and to, like, lean in and tell the guys, like, oh, I got one of your cards. Or, like, Trent Dilfer, I found his 94 rookie card. And him and we have like a friendship now, and I cover him, I cover UAB inside of the American. So we were sitting doing an interview, and I said, dude, I have your rookie card. I said, will you sign it for me? Just because like we both believe in God, we have a strong faith. Like we talk about everything outside of football. We talk like 70 outside and 30% football when we talk. I said, he's like, of course, man, I signed that for you. And
time to hear from one of our great sponsors, but Sports Card Nation will be right back after that.
Hobby Hotline is the hobby's only live interactive call-in show. Join some of your favorite hobby personalities every Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, to discuss the hottest hobby topics. If you miss us live, catch us after the fact on all major podcast platforms. Follow us on socials at Hobby Hotline.
Let's go! You are listening to the Sports Card Nation podcast.
So to me, it's like collecting your card, like collecting cards as a kid. I guess the best story is Damon Stoudemire. Like collecting him at age 9, writing him a letter before social media, trying to find his address somewhere, and then sending it to one of the 9 addresses he had, hoping one of them was right. Sending him a letter with my mom, never hearing back from him. And then you fast forward to, I'm in my 30s, and I'm covering the ACC, and I'm covering really all of college basketball, and I've covered all different conferences, and I've covered the NCAA tournament, and I've been there, and we've gone coast to coast, north to south. And Damon Stoudemire can get hired at one of any of the 360 plus schools in Division I men's basketball. And he gets hired at Georgia Tech. And Georgia Tech happens to be a team I've covered for over a decade. And my buddy Ross, who's a brother to me, sends me a message and he says, Damon Stoudemire gets hired at Georgia Tech. I jumped so high in my kitchen that I almost hit my head on my ceiling. I was so excited, and I looked up at God and I said, hey, like, as long as I'm alive a few months from now, I'm actually going to get to talk to the person who is my favorite player. Like, I'm actually going to get to cross paths with Damon Stoudemire, and I've waited 29 years at the time to do it. And I said, no matter what, I'm going to get to do it. And then the Diamondbacks made the World Series. I was down in Charlotte doing the ACC tip-off, interviewing all the basketball teams. And I said to my dad, if the Diamondbacks make it, we're going. And they won, and my dad said, look up tickets. So I looked up tickets that night. It was right around my birthday. The Diamondbacks make the World Series, and I knew that the next morning I was going to get to talk to Damon. I interviewed Damon in the TV room, asked him a couple questions. Then I walked outside of the room, and I said to Damon in the Hilton Charlotte Uptown, I said, hey Damon, just want to say I appreciate you, my favorite player growing up. He shook my hand, he gave me a hug, shook my hand multiple times, gave me a couple hugs. Then he did a one-on-one with me on camera together, and then we ended up talking last year. And last year, he gave such a long answer to me that everybody in the room, he was literally just looking at me, and we were talking in this TV room, and at the end of it, the moderator was like, all right, Damon, you're done. Like, they just kind of laughed, like, you just literally had a one-on-one with that guy, and now you're all done. And so, I mean, to be collecting cards at 9 years old of your favorite player, and you want to grow up, and he's number 20 on the Raptors, and you want to be number 21, he's 5'10", you're 5'8", you want to play next to this guy, and you wait almost 3 decades, and you get to shake hands and hug him and tell the person that you talked everyone's ear off about, including, you know, your grandmas and your mom and your dad, and now you get to actually talk to him man to man and get to meet him and give him a hug and thank him. Like that, honestly, that full circle moment is one of the wildest moments of my life, and I still don't even believe that it happened.
How hard was it not to fanboy? Like, obviously, you have a job to do, and you know, talk about the difficulty to keep it professional, but at the same time, let him know what he meant to you. You know, growing up as a collector and as a sports fan and your favorite player.
I think it was like finding a way to tell him I own 220 plus of your cards without him thinking like I was crazy. You know,
like the cable guy.
Yeah, like just being like, dude, I really just loved watching you play, and he's the reason why I'm a Raptor fan, and I always will be. So, because he came in their inaugural year, and he was Rookie of the Year that year. I mean, I had a plaque up of him in my room right by my bed, and it reminded me, like, you can make it. You can do it. You can do whatever you set your mind to. You know, he was Mighty Mouse, and he's not a tall guy, and I'm not a tall guy. And so, yeah, I mean, I think just talking with him, it was like, how do you pack 29 years of just appreciating this man from afar to, like, getting to talk to him and asking him if he can spend a couple minutes with you. So, I mean, I don't really get, like, starstruck, and it was more to me, like, I just hope that he lets me talk to him for a few minutes, and I hope Georgia Tech lets me do it, because you never know what SID you're dealing with, and some people must have been bullied in school because they're really weird. And so, like, the guy was nice, and Damon was nice, and shout out to Georgia Tech. And, yeah, I mean, it really wasn't like like a fanboy moment. It was like, I want to tell him that I collected his cards as a young kid, with him fully knowing that I'm a normal human being. Because I very much, like, you know, am not like the guy in Happy Gilmore that put the lipstick on and is like crossing names out. So like, I just was like, I want to tell him, because I feel like my grandmother and my mom would be like, you better tell him that you spent a lot of our money on that guy. So yeah, it was just finding a way to tell him that. But yeah, I mean, it was a great conversation, and I mean, I would like to have a friendship with him and get to know him as a man. So I'm hoping that, you know, as God crossed our paths in a miraculous way, I'm hoping that, you know, there will be a time where maybe in a few months, or in a month, I should say, that him and I can, you know, just kind of sit and talk, and I can just kind of pick his brain and get to know who he is as a...
Yeah, that's awesome. It's very, not everyone gets to meet their heroes, but that,
No.
you know, you've done this long enough. You know how to keep it professional. I'm kind of like you, Dan. I've met some folks along the way doing this, and even just going to sporting events and spring training. You know, someone asked me if there is anyone like I would meet that would, like, you know, leave me in awe or speak. The only one that first comes to mind from would be Michael Jordan. Like, if I got to meet him, and
yeah, I got to be in the same room with him, literally walking, like he walked like right behind my back at Orlando Pro Summer League, and then at Orlando Magic game, he walked right toward me with his girlfriend at the time. And I mean, I've been in the room with him, Larry Bird. I've interviewed Patrick Ewing. Like, it's been really crazy to be like, I'm sitting in a room with the greatest of the greats, and like these dream team players. But I mean, yeah, I was like, my producer called me at the time, Niccolo Cicero, and he was like, Michael Jordan's there. And I'm like, no, he's not. Actually, I would know if he's there. And like, as I'm talking to him, Michael Jordan is walking right behind my back, and everything inside of me was like, fall backwards so that he can catch you. So yeah,
fake like a medical emergency.
yeah. I was like, either he's gonna help you and he's gonna get to know you, or he's gonna walk by you. But yeah, I mean, I did get to see him twice, and Larry Bird. I mean, I was arm to arm with him, and Patrick Ewing and I mean, I got to interview Patrick Ewing, which was wild to me. And I will tell you that the Syracuse-Georgetown rivalry will never die. I talked to Patrick Ewing about a year after Pearl Washington passed away, and Patrick, I asked him about Pearl, and he gave a backhanded compliment about Pearl, and I'm looking at him going like, he's dead now. And he still couldn't just be nice.
Yeah.
He had to be like, kind of nice, but I hate you at the same time. Like, Syracuse-Georgetown will never die.
No, and as it should. And that's and hopefully it continues, and they get to play each other. I know they're not in the same conference anymore, but they
Still the biggest rivalry Syracuse has.
Yep. Well, Dan, this is fun, man. I'm glad we finally got to do it again. You wouldn't have got to do this show if it wasn't for you. So I've never get to tell the guests that, so I get to tell you. If it wasn't for you, you wouldn't be on this show, because the show wouldn't exist for you to be on. So I appreciate you. We'll have to do it again, just the same as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, I appreciate your kind words. And, you know, I think, again, the credit goes to you and your hard work and your dedication and your belief in yourself. I mean, I saw something in you, and I wanted you to be a part of it, and I saw value in you when maybe you didn't see it. But all that you've done, that, you know, I mean, I wanted you to know that I valued you. Everything that you did to make your own brand, like, I would never take any of that away from anybody. I wouldn't want anybody to take away from me. So I give you the credit, again, for doing this show.
Well, I was hoping you would just say that without John Newman, there'd be no Dan Tortora broadcast. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I would say, you know, to me, without John Newman, there would be a lot colder of an environment in this media world. You know, I try to help everyone. I'm absolutely here to do that. I would love to, and so, I mean, you're just one of the people that I reached out to, and you said yes, and it meant a lot to me. It continues to mean a lot to me. You know, I consider Jordan a little brother, whether I've seen him in 3 years or not, like I still consider him family, and I consider you family. And there's very, very few people that have a reoccurring place on my show, and that's because I'm very, very, very like when I make a decision and what I'm doing, it comes with a lot of thought and just paying attention and praying about it and caring about people. So, I mean, to me, you give me the credit, but the credit goes to you because I saw something in you and I saw something in Jordan. And, I really appreciate the kindness, the generosity, the kind words. But I'd like to think that God brought us together. I like to think that God brought us back together. And I'd like to think that God will keep us together. I love what you're doing. I love that you're enjoying it. And again, I'm so proud of you, and I'm happy for you, and I love seeing it. I love seeing you having fun. I love seeing you being successful and just going out and just paving your own way. That's so important to me. And like I said, I love seeing other people win. And there's a certain type of character people, and there's a way that people are. And I just feel like you care about people. You do things the right way. You have morals and values. You believe in God. And you're just, you're good to other people. And I think if you're a good person and you believe in God and you work hard and you chase your dreams, you're going to catch it. You're never going to fail. And, I love that I'm here. I love that I get to be in this studio, and I love that I get to see it. I'm really honored that I got asked to do it. I think it's a privilege to be on the show. And, it means the world to me that, you would even want me to be here. So, I mean, dude, I'm here anytime you want me to be, but I can't say enough about the fact that I want to make a difference in this world, and I see you. Kudos to you, for 7 times 7 for your show. Keep God first. Keep being good to people. You know that I'm always cheering you on, and I'm right down the road.
All right, man. I don't know what to say after that. Thank you, Dan, and we will do it again. No doubt. Thank you.
Of course, brother. Appreciate it.
That was great having Dan on, and like I said, the program you're listening to right now doesn't exist really without his inspiration. And if you missed the first part 1 from last week previous, check that out. But glad to finally have him on. I know I've talked about him on the show, about what he meant to the show, but kind of to come full circle and have him on the actual show was a really a fun blast, and I know he had fun as well. And I see Dan all the time at shows, at card stores, and loves the hobby, loves sports, loves what he does, loves life, he's a great guy. So hope you enjoyed both part 1 and part 2.
Time for our Hobby is the People Announcer of the Week.
This is Dan Tortora of Wake Up Call, which you can watch and listen to worldwide Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, if not longer, on .com and Facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT, and on WakeUpCallT.podbean.com, and all the time, go to WakeUpCallDT.com. This is my guy, John Newman, and you need to support him, the Sports Card Nation podcast, where I don't need to tell you, but I will, the hobby is the people.
If you'd like to be the Hobby is the People Announcer of the Week, do a WAV or MP3 file and send it to sportscardnationpc@gmail.com.